How did your crazy ex become your crazy ex? She woke me up because I had the night sweats and she was convinced I had AIDS. For some reason, I decided to appease her and got a full STD screen, including an expensive AIDS test. A few weeks later, I drove to her house to give her my sign note. I had to specifically request, stating my clean bill of health. She accused me of forging the entire thing, and in the following argument pulled heat plates out of the cupboard and frisbeed them at me. I left immediately. About 6 months later, I had just started dating my now fiancé. She contacted me to tell me she believed me and wanted to know if she and her 2 dogs could move in with me. I never responded.
That sounds like a wild experience. It's strange how someone can go from being so worried about your health to asking to move in. I guess some people don't know how to handle things properly. Good on you for moving on and finding someone who fits better in your life. It's a reminder to keep some distance from people who create drama. Sometimes it's just not worth it.
Painted my name all over his bedroom, bathroom, and lounge room. Proposed, and then photoshopped us into wedding pictures. Sent invites all his family, mine and my friends, got an ultrasound photo online, and tried to announce to Facebook we were expecting a baby, shaved our initials into his cat, and left hundreds of love letters taped to my car. So that was crazy. We went on half a double date with friends. I was just being a good sport. Noped out when he proposed when my food came. The rest came over the next week. Edit to clarify, as I feel I wasn't clear. This was all after the one and only date. This wasn't a we dated for months, and then as crazy came out, this was we met an hour ago, why are you proposing to me?
That sounds intense. I can't imagine someone going all out like that after just one date. It's wild how some people jump straight into the deep end without seeing if the other person is even on the same page. The shaving initials into the cat part is next level. You did the right thing by stepping back. Some things definitely go too far, too fast. Better to avoid that kind of drama.
Would start arguments out of thin air because I'm drama, this is who I am. Then one day, I went drinking in her hometown. She ran into her ex. A day later she said, sorry, but I'm going to start dating him again. 2 days after that, she was begging to get back together. Nope. Messaged me occasionally for a few years to go out for a drink, but eventually stopped when she got knocked up. Good luck to the guy who knocked her up. In addition to being an absolute gem of a personality, she had awful genetics and family.
Sounds like a wild ride with that friend. Drama always follows some people, doesn't it? It's kind of funny how quickly things can flip, like her going back to her ex. The messages afterwards seem a bit desperate. Life's funny like that. You just gotta hope the next guy knows what he's getting into. Can't say I wouldn't want to be in that situation, though. Good luck to him.
She cut out my head from yearbooks and put them on corkboards on her headboard. I found out because one of her friends told me she did, and so I wanted to see for myself. She was working during the day, and I was close with her brother, who let me in when I said I needed to grab something from her BR. I walked in, and sure enough, my head on a bunch of muscular bodies that weren't mine. I broke up with her the next day after seeing the Hey Arnold-esque shrine. Following the breakup, she would drive on my street and stop and wait outside and see if my light was on. It wasn't, mainly because I knew she would do that. Then she would call me and leave voicemails of her breathing rather heavily. She then tried to get me jealous of her having another guy, which I was everything but jealous of, and she actually had sex with and got pregnant with said guy, which kind of backfired on her. So, happy ending, I guess.
That's a wild situation. Finding your head on a shrine must have been really unsettling. Breaking up right after that makes sense. It's odd how some people react post-breakup. Her waiting outside and leaving those weird voicemails shows she wasn't ready to let go. And trying to make you jealous with someone else? Didn't really work out for her. Seems like you moved on fine, so it's a strange happy ending for you, for sure.
He told me my life choices determined if he lived or not. Either I stay with him and everything is great, or I go off to college and break up with him, subsequently leading to him offing himself. I knew it was a bluff, so I got the hell out of that relationship as soon as I could and told all his friends to watch out for him, without describing why.
That's a tough situation to be in. It's hard when someone puts that kind of pressure on you. Sometimes, you have to look out for yourself first. It's good you recognized it as a bluff and acted quickly. It shows you cared enough to warn his friends too. Not an easy choice, but it sounds like you made the right move for your own well-being.
He told me he was in love with me 2 weeks after we met. When I wouldn't say it back, he flipped shit and skipped town for 4 days and didn't talk to me once. After a month of dating, one morning he asked me what I was doing, and I told him I was going to spend the day at the beach with a friend. He responded with, "Talk to me when you have time for me."
That sounds intense. It's wild how quickly feelings can escalate, and then how someone can react when things don't go their way. His response to spending time with a friend shows a lack of understanding of boundaries. It's important to have space in a relationship. The whole thing feels off from the start. Not the healthiest way to handle love, that's for sure.
Told me he loved me about 6 weeks in. Used to take other people's ideas and claim he came up with them at random. Said music was his religion and there were some kind of spirits/energy affiliated with it. He creepily watched his housemate, sleeping one-time dude, decided to move out. About 2 months or so after dating, he broke up with me, saying I was too chill. I was going to break up with him anyway. Apparently, he took it worse than I did.
Sounds like he had some interesting views. It's wild when someone gets all deep about things like music and spirits, but then acts creepy too. Safe to say you made the right call not sticking around. Sometimes people just don't vibe the way they think they do. Glad you were on the same page about the breakup though. Saves everyone the trouble.
First, she became my ex, but not before we booked and paid for a non-refundable trip to Thailand for 2 weeks. Fast forward 7 months, we haven't really spoken, but it's time to go to Thailand together, and we decide we're going to be adults about this and enjoy the trip to the other side of the planet together. Okay, no problem. That's an admirable decision for both parties. Once we're in Thailand together, sharing a room and a bed, she informs me she has a new boyfriend. Wow, that was fast after our many years together, but kudos. But one day, while I'm in the shower, she goes through my phone and reviews all my text messages. Then she flips her shit because I've been talking/texting other girls. That's right, the girl with the new boyfriend is foaming at the mouth rage, screaming at me for moving on with my life. That's when she became my crazy ex.
That's an unusual situation. Going on a trip with an ex is already a gamble. Then to find out she's with someone else but still gets mad about you talking to other girls? Seems contradictory. It's like she wanted to keep you on a string while moving on. The contradiction really catches you off guard. But hey, at least it gave you an interesting story to tell.
He asked for a divorce. The crazy part is he didn't actually want one. He just thought I wouldn't agree, and he could use the threat of divorce to make me do whatever he wanted. Things went farther and farther. He moved out immediately. We separated everything. He traded my car in and got himself a BMW. We got a lawyer and filed the paperwork. So he asked me out to dinner. Over burgers, he told me that he never wanted a divorce. He was surprised when I said yes. And he just kept expecting that I would ask him to take me back. Whoops.
That's a wild situation. It seems like he underestimated you. He thought he could control things with that threat, but ended up setting a whole process in motion. It's kind of crazy how some people don't realize what they actually want until it's almost too late. The dinner must have been awkward. You were both on completely different pages. It's interesting how people handle relationships and expectations.
I feel like I need to defend normal human beings and say that stretch marks are definitely not a sign of having a kid. They're just a sign of weight gain at one point or another. A large quantity of women have them, especially on their breasts, just from normal healthy development. I'm a guy and I have stretch marks. Stretch marks in general are not indicative of having had a kid. I will concede, however, that I do not know if there are specific locations of stretch marks that might be a more reliable indicator.
It's interesting how stretch marks are often tied to certain experiences, but they really just show our bodies changing. I know a couple of friends who have them from growing up or gaining weight. I even have some myself, not related to anything special. It's just a normal part of being human. People shouldn't be judged for their bodies. It's all just part of life, really.
Haha. One time when I was single, I was walking down the street, and this gorgeous girl is walking by and gives me a half smile, and I pulled the "hey, we met at a party a while back, didn't we?" line, even though I was usually not that kind of guy. We got to talking. I admitted that I made up the line to talk to her. She thought it was cute, so right then we go out for drinks. Awesome. Well, we're talking, and somehow gay marriage comes up, and turns out this cute small blonde in a very liberal city is a gay disliking. No dinosaurs. Jesus is Lord Christian. I ranted a bit about how gay love is the same as hetero love for a bit, in as non-condescending way as I could. Really just giving her a different perspective, but noped out after that. She had recently moved to the city, and I wonder if she is still the same, or if encounters like ours slowly changed her views.
It's funny how things can go sideways like that. You think you're just having a nice time, and then boom, a topic comes up that shifts the whole vibe. You tried to keep it chill and share a different view, which is cool. Sometimes those encounters stick with people, and they might rethink things later. Who knows, maybe it had an effect on her. It's all part of the adventure, I guess.
Same here. I had a bunch of friends tell me that my ex was emotionally and mentally abusive, but I felt like since he had never really been physical with me, it wasn't all that bad. I wish myself now, who suffers from PTSD from my time with that bastard, could kick my past selves, but for staying with the jerk for so long. You don't ever want to believe something that bad is happening to you. I mean, it can never happen to you, right? I certainly didn't think it could ever happen to me. I was a good person, but I was also blinded. Ugh.
It's tough when you're in that situation. You're right. It's hard to see things clearly when you're going through it. Friends can see the red flags you might overlook. Looking back, you realize how much it took to recognize the abuse. It's easy to think it's not that bad if there weren't physical issues. What matters is that you finally got out. That's the important part.
That's at least as dangerous as physical violence. When you get punched, you instantly know that the person in front of you is going too far. But when someone is exploiting you emotionally or using psychological tricks on you, it can take up months before realizing anything. And I insist, not because you're somehow not intelligent enough to see it coming.
It's true, emotional manipulation can be really hard to notice. I've had a friend go through something similar. They trusted someone who ended up messing with their head. It was a slow burn, you know? At first, everything seemed fine, but over time, the little digs and mind games added up. It took them a while to realize what was happening, which is why it's often more harmful than physical stuff.
Glossing over the fact that they went to Thailand together 7 months after breaking up. There is no amount of money in the world worth losing that could make that seem like an intelligent, rational decision. Most airlines have policies regarding major life events, and that would almost certainly be covered, especially if they were living together.
It's pretty interesting how some people handle breakups. A friend of mine went on a trip with their ex a few months after they split. You'd think the idea would be weird, but they felt it was just something they had to do. I guess sometimes nostalgia can mess with your judgment. It's all about those memories, even if it doesn't really make sense. Just living in the moment, I guess.
My husband had horrible night sweats and lost a ton of weight. He was not overweight to begin with. I knew that these could be symptoms of AIDS, but I also knew there was no way he had it. He ended up in the hospital for a week, and the first thing the doctor did when he saw those symptoms was order an AIDS test. Long-winded way of saying, I guess I can understand your girl's concern. But couldn't she have found a better way to talk to you about it?
It sounds like a tough situation. When health issues come up, it can definitely cause a lot of worry. It's understandable she was concerned, but communication is key. If she brought it up differently, it might have eased the tension. Sometimes, the way we talk about sensitive subjects makes all the difference. It's better to approach it calmly and openly, rather than jump to conclusions. Just a thought.
Dude, I know your pain. I moved to go to college with my girlfriend away from my friends and my family. I got so sick I was laying on the floor of my apartment with a 103 fever, probably the sickest I'd been in 5 years. I asked her to please go give me some aspirin as I was nearing delirium and couldn't drive, and she told me she had a headache and really didn't want to leave the apartment. It was at that moment that I realized what a terrible person she was. I talked her into getting me the aspirin and never spoke to her again.
That's rough. It sounds like you really had to face some tough situations alone. Getting sick away from home is already hard enough, and then to not get support from someone you care about must have felt pretty isolating. At least you stood your ground and didn't let that define you. Stepping away from a toxic relationship is a good call, even if it took that moment to realize it.
One of my best friends has a long-running Sims house where she makes all her ex-boyfriend Sims move once they break up. When she told me that, I realized that she makes a sim for a guy as soon as they're dating. She's been doing this for years and years and years. I'm pretty sure the ex house is the coolest house on the block.
That's an interesting way to handle breakups. I mean, creating a whole sim for each relationship and then moving them into their own house sounds like a unique way to process things. It kind of turns the whole dating experience into a game, which can be a healthy way to cope. Plus, it must be funny to see how she designs them, and what kind of drama unfolds in that ex-house over time.
Oh man, this whole thread makes me cringe thinking back to my original crushes in my teens and early 20s. I'm now in my upper mid-20s without even a first real relationship, and I'm glad none of my crushes worked out, as I was so immature, too attached, and prone to slight stalking tendencies. Did I mention rSlash was rather socially awkward and probably on the autism spectrum? I've since gotten better, but knowing the craziness out there and some of my past indiscretions, I don't feel mature financially or personally or comfortable enough to try dating again. I'm mostly cool being single, but occasionally wonder what personal intimacy or friendship feels like, even non-sexual affection and love.
I get that. In my early 20s, I had this big crush too. I thought about it way too much, like I'd overanalyze everything, wondering if they liked me back. It was awkward. Now, looking back, I'm okay with not having had a serious relationship back then. Just needed to figure myself out first. Sometimes, being single has its perks, but that longing for connection can sneak up on you. It's a mixed bag.
D&D Idea, a campaign where a shadowy business liaison contacts the group to adventure, yada yada yada. It turns out there are multiple shell corporations that lead them up the corporate ladder until they find that the evil they've been chasing has been caused by a lich who owns the adventuring company. He's been hiring goons to cause trouble, and then waiting for townspeople to contact his adventuring company so he gets a huge reward, then uses that money to bankroll more chaos.
This D&D idea is interesting. It has a nice twist with the lich owning the adventuring company. The players think they're doing good but are actually part of a bigger scheme. I can imagine the moment they realize the truth being pretty wild. It's a clever mix of corporate intrigue and fantasy. The whole shadowy business angle adds a unique layer to the typical adventure. It could lead to some cool role-playing moments too.
Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love,